Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 25th of July, and sure enough, once we got back to the ABM yellow, we continued to capture the turnaround here of both midterm buyers, long-term buyers, just catching enough of it. At the same time, steel, again, a little bit of a fade. Puts us, guess where? Well, that's right, the same number that I mentioned before, that 3022 number. So that could be a pause out point at this junction. We're just about to have everybody meet right here at the near zero levels. And this becomes critical because a rollover here of red, and we're certainly going to get a much more precipitous decline, and usually they'll be a lot faster. So, but for now, you had the Mueller disaster on the Hill, which means no impeachment. Things are going to continue as they are, which means good business. So, market's happy with that. Because no surprise. That's what we're talking about. No surprise. Now, the NASDAQ broke to a new high, and that's critical because that was where we were seeing the strength originally, because its DOC readings were far better. Same with its, even the extreme. I mean, you had the green dips and then boom. Almost got overbought with that. A little bit of a yellow warning. We'll see if that continues. It's not starting out that way, but that doesn't mean that can't change if this takes off into a bigger degree. It pulled back a little bit from its highs. Later on, that wasn't the case. The S&P was playing catch-up. The Euro disaster is just beginning, and we're moving exactly in the direction that I had suggested that we would with this changeover, because, again, Trump wins again here because May's gone. Boris is certainly going to be wanting to make a deal with a trade deal with the U.S. This is a decimation for the EU and really will put continued strain on the euro currency because they just don't have any growth. But this is something we've been talking about for a while. Not going to make the U.S. happy because they really would like to prop the euro up. It's already been propped up quite a bit, but you got quite a bit of international pressure driving that down because nobody wants a euro at this particular point. So it's a whole separate issue. Treasuries, again, you know, this float of the idea that we're going to zero rates, which is what's going to be needed if you're going to spend trillions and trillions in deficits, because you just can't afford to pay interest on it. So why not move it to zero rates? Wouldn't that make it a lot cheaper for the government to borrow? I guess that never occurred to anyone. And oil, it's not going anywhere. You know, this was the whole point of the change in energy policy, moving shale to the forefront. This is the ultimate nightmare for the Middle East. They've lost all their clout, all their power, which is also why you see zero interest in Trump wanting to get involved with the Iranian thing, because we don't care. Hate to be blunt, but that's kind of what that means. When you have enough of your own oil and U.S. is becoming an exporter, what do you care? You don't. As long as things remain somewhat, you know, under control, you're not going to get involved in petty things. Gold, maintaining this elevated level, and I don't even know that you would call it elevated, because I think it's been probably kept lower for some time, because there are going to be inflationary pressures over time. This is something where I talked about, well, a year or more ago, saying this was a multi-year situation, but that was, you know, way back when it was considerably cheaper than it is at this particular stage. From a 5K standpoint, it was very nice. We had a nice little short signal there. We filled in a couple of little positive extremes that had happened back there. It was nothing major serious. Revamped right there, and this was interesting because we started putting in the X2s with the additional pivot that came through all across here. You can see the X's that were going. Even though you had the rejection of green and the move lower, you had been coming off of this bullish reset right here that was leading to this charge. And that's kind of the correlation that you look for when you get this kind of reset move right here. The bullish passover is right there, and you look for the continuation when these two meet, and oftentimes when you get a little rejection, that's where you're most concerned. But in this case, you ended up with no dip of yellow below magenta, and that led to just straightforward move up. Did create a nice DOC spread again. It was just the same reset situation, producing almost identical, except for in this case you then had green over, which you know is even more powerful. So at that particular point, hey, you know this second leg is potentially going to be even better than the first, and you could actually measure them. You know, we can do that with a Fibonacci, because typically you would expect that This leg right here then gets doubled up, and you should flip those around, put that 0 down below. Let me redo that for you right there. So if we look at that one, we have our plus 100 whatever. So distance-wise, 10 points. That means that the move from there in total should probably be about 20 points in total. So you've already had from 310 to 320, so the potential is another 10-point move to the upside would be within reasonable parameters, so keep an eye out for that. We are in the middle of the start of the DOC spread right here, but you know that likely is just going to fill some of these positive extremes. Now we do have positive extremes going all the way to the 3013 level right here. So that was the previous 50%, that's now risen, but that would be your full target breakdown. We kind of reached that when everything plateaued right there, but this was just the first in the move when you had the magenta so far above the 15. Well, actually we're already up at 25. So this lower high on higher price, that's where you tend to be a little more interested, though you're still having rising shakeout. So until that begins to abate, it's all looking like roses and sunshine. What's the new song now? Remake of the old one, I got a pocket full of sunshine. That's exactly what the market is. Glowing sunshine. As always, though, if something relevant happens, I will put it up on the Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk again later.